So, good morning, everybody. It is Saturday, and I just read my whole book cover to cover. I mean, it's not a thick book, but this is not something that needs to be thick. This is the primer to ease people into the idea that we don't have to die. To ease people into the idea that meat is not something to discriminate against, sugar is not something to discriminate against, salt is not something to discriminate against, and foods are not to be something to discriminate against. I still, of course, see all over Facebook people are promoting plant-based therapies because they're trying to be healthy, and they're too afraid to have an acidic body, but you need a balance of acids. You need a balance of alkaline, okay? You can't just be all alkaline or all acid because that will cause more imbalances. So right now, what this book is doing, it is easing people into the idea that you don't have to discriminate against food and that you can live indefinitely, potentially, and then understanding what cancer, disease, and chronic illness is. It's basically imbalances in your microbiome. Okay, I give enough substantiation for people to say, okay, sugar is not the enemy, salt is not the enemy, food is not the enemy, the air and the water and all that is not the enemy. There are no enemies. The real enemy is within you. And so, I look back on what I wrote. Like right now we're in June and we just went through the riots. We're going through COVID. And I wrote this book back in like February, March. I started mid-February, done about the end of March, give or take, and then submitted this in April. Okay, so you'll see that I've actually made corrections on May 2nd. Not even corrections, I added on May 2nd, I added something about the antidiuretic hormone because I was coming upon more information, new information, something else I could add. And that is the evolutionary process, is when you can write something at the time, and this is the best work you did at the time, and then you keep evolving, and you're like, God damn, I got to write another book because there's more out there. But if I try to put because when you're in this evolution process, like where I'm at, where it's so quick because this is what I do predominantly. I don't have any other distractions except for my husband and my dog in the house, and that's it. So you'll get snapshots of my evolutionary process. So this is a snapshot, and then I'm reading my book and we're like, oh gosh, I know that when I write my next book, it's going to be amazing. And this is I know this is from what I was a couple of months ago, and I'm not saying I've changed 100%, but I've changed a lot. I've understood some of the writing syntax, which I didn't really have that understanding of writing syntax. I mean, I didn't. I've gotten better in the writing, and my friend was kind of helping me, and she wasn't being like a major editor, but she wanted to make sure that I didn't have too many run-on sentences. I have maybe like one or two in here, a few, but nothing crazy. You get the gist of it, and it's straight to the point. There's no distractions in here too much, okay? This is to the point. It really it substantiates everything about the protocol and the myths around things people are afraid of, okay? Like taking anti-inflammatories, antibiotics, anti-life, okay? So I'm getting straight to the point. But it's just like, I look back and I'm like, okay, and then I'm like, okay, and I'm writing another book about, about words have meaning. But I didn't have this idea about words have, well, I did and I didn't. I didn't have that, the idea about how brainwashing and the different parts of speech and perceptions and breaking that down. But it wouldn't have been appropriate for this book, because this book is strictly just getting people who are still stuck in the looping of discrimination and diets and chemotherapy and cannabis and really want to find a different way. And they don't, they need to have something straight to the point. This is the book for them because it really just baby steps them through, and it has the Jilly Juice protocol in here, the Jilly Juice recipe. It has recipe. It has even how to deal with some of the healing and why you have these healing symptoms. Introducing indefinite life. And so it gradually eases you into this idea and then substantiates it through PubMed, through academic resources, through government resources. So you know that everything is perception out there. Everything is perception. The only facts are if something is just a noun. And that's based upon the syntax of the English language. So if you want to know what a true fact is, you look up the parts of speech and look up the word. And if the word can only be a noun and it can't be anything else, then that's a fact. So when you think about how many words that are nouns, verbs, and adjectives, that's perception. It can be used in different contexts. That's when you're dealing with perceptions, when you debate stuff. When something like this is debatable, it's a perception. So now I'm trying to deal with straight up fact. But indefinite life is a perception because it's debatable. But it comes down to then the laws of life and death. And so this is where I talk about how people violate the laws of life by adhering to the laws of death. They take the antibiotics, the anti-inflammatories, the anti-parasitics, the antimicrobials, the antifungals, the antibiotics, and it's anti-life. And so, yes, and then, they talk about mucus and infection and antibodies and how that contributes to more imbalances. And then what do people die from predominantly? It's heart attacks, heart issues, low blood pressure, high blood pressure. When people are constantly running their battery without recharging, when you have all these hormones at the surface and they're not being turned off. Okay. And so they keep running their battery down. Now, am I making that analogy in this book, running your battery down? Not necessarily. I say that the potential for indefinite life is there if you understand not to discriminate and you don't violate the laws of life. But I can't make any promises, but I can introduce the possibilities. So I'm not trying to talk about any cures in here. There is no cures. There is no speaking of any specific symptoms. A diagnosable disease. I don't talk about diagnosable diseases. I just speak more in the general sense and introduce an idea that maybe the practices that you guys have today are contributing to the death process and the misalignment of your body, mind, and spirit. And then trying to make analogies that death, birth, and reproduction, or life, death, and reproduction is that constant cycle that people are on, and I equate it to the 4 seasons. And then what we do on a looping mechanism where we have pain, we apply antibiotics, and then we, temporarily have a state of execution and our body just goes to the wayside. And then our kids are being used as cannon fodder. Okay? So, and I do go into a little bit of my background, not too much about PMDD or some other stuff, which you guys know about. But this is more of a great introduction to your friends, to a thought process. If they never heard about me, I think I did mention about Dr. Phil and that we don't know what normal is. Okay. And whatever I said on Dr. Phil, is not the end all be all. And I've obviously since changed. Not that I had any kind of real cemented ideas about stuff, but I was definitely introducing on Dr. Phil a thought process, an idea about what life was and what it meant, to reproduce. And I realized that reproduction, regardless if you have the intention to make a baby, is still a sign of imbalance. And so then it makes everything equal under that sun, that no matter what, your intention is with reproduction, even the act of, it's still a sign of imbalance. Now it can be balanced in a way where two people who are also in business together, okay, sharing expenses, can find a happy medium to take care of each other's needs, but Jilly Juice will help you establish boundaries if one person has more of a desire than the other. And so that way nobody feels like one is overtaking the other or denying the other. Though, nowadays some guys think they just need to have it all the time, but not necessarily. You don't want to drain the life force of your husband or your wife. You want to, allow them to regenerate. Okay. So it's interesting reading, the stuff in here. And so that's why I say, you guys, if you can take the time to drink a bunch of the J juice, try to set time aside to really just do some, not just do something for yourself on the body wise, but do something for yourself in the mind wise. Exercise your mind. Write. If you really, want to see how you can slow down your thought process, write about stuff that you know about. Write something. Because when you write, it slows down your thought process. And then it's easy to make connections. And then as you evolve and you go through your life, you start seeing the evolution through your writing. Because you really can't watch yourself. I mean, you can, but when you're always constantly reflecting and you're bouncing off of other people, you get in this automatic pilot. I know I do. And so that's why I think it's a great balance that my husband, he's out there mostly doing his thing. And I'm here, to write and self-reflect and hang out with my dog and watch how she does and watch watch Facebook and see how you guys are. And then writing about my ideas has really given me the strength or given me the expertise. Oh, I don't say expertise. It's given me the allowance to develop my brain. That's what the main thing is. So yes, there is body, and that's what a lot of people are kind of stuck on right now, is their body. Okay, they reverse their cancer, disease, and chronic illness. They have more energy. They are, they're more productive, and I think that's great because yes, you have to be more productive, especially if you're competing, and I think that's great. And is there a way to expand your mind to where you can see specific measurable results? Okay. And then the spirit. This is where the whole heaven and hell thing. I'm thinking about, that song Creed talking about where he wishes he could stay asleep and be in his dreams, not be awake in this life, because this life for people who are aging and degrading, it's kind of like a hell. Okay. Some people don't want to say it's kind of hell, or they say, yeah, I can't wait till I die, where then the blind can see, where the streets are paved with gold, where, they're not part of the suffering of the world. And so that's like a projection of what it would be like if they did J juice and they reversed all their issues and they're able to be at peace, even though the world around them is falling apart. They can still be at peace. And so when I posted that link about a pastor's perspective on heaven, and I'm thinking, just take away, all the scripture and look at it from the point of view of somebody on J juice, reversing all their cancer, disease, and chronic illness. They don't have those hang-ups. They're not emotionally invested or involved with people who are imbalanced. They're not taking part in all the craziness out there. They've taken themselves out of the war, and now they're just, they're just producing. They're I don't know, reflecting. They're being productive, but not so to the point where they're dying. And I mean, I gotta find that, because it was just like, it was so uncanny. It was so weird. I'm like, that's exactly what I envision people on the J juice. Is like a heaven based upon what this pastor's interpretation of what heaven is. Okay? So what will life be like for people on the Jilly juice here on earth once they have emotionally separated themselves from the imbalances in their spheres of influence? It won't be that different, but it will be. Okay? It was really weird reading through the eyes of Jilly juice. 9 facts about heaven that will surprise you. Okay? So what is heaven is when you actually reversed all your cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and you're not emotionally invested in imbalanced people, places, and things. And so this is what he wrote. When I anticipate my first glimpse of heaven, I remember the first time I went snorkeling. I saw countless fish. So remember, let's pretend that you're on the J juice and you have really upped your game, and now you're at peace, you're chill, your outlook on life and everything is just like, everything is beautiful. You recognize the beauty in the world and the trees and within you, and you realize that you can't control the world, but you can only control yourself. And so you have trust in your body, mind, and spirit, your own body, mind, and spirit. So he saw countless fish of every shape and size and color. You know, just when I thought I'd seen the most beautiful fish, along came on even more striking. Etched in my memory is the sound of a gas going through my snorkel as my eyes were opened to a breathtaking underwater world. As believers, I imagine our first glimpse of heaven, which is when you finally resolved your issues, the death trajectory, will cause us to gasp in a similar way, with amazement and delight. You know, when you finally reversed your cancer, when you finally switched something in your brain, that first gasp will likely be followed by many more as we continually encounter new sights in that endless, wonderful place of balance. Though most of us are in no hurry to get to our final destination, what's our final destination? Continuous life, not death. See, I think people project what they truly want to be pain-free, and they want to be healthy and beautiful and live in a world where it's so, peaceful and non-chaotic. But that happens within. It doesn't happen. It's not something you can control out there. So what do people do? They project what's inside, and they think it's a destination. They think that once they live out this life and follow whatever rules to get to heaven, they will be in the most amazing zone. And what if you did the J juice, reverse all your issues, and you can be in that zone today, in your waking life? You don't have to go to sleep to be in that beautiful, ethereal place. Okay? So what he says is, number one, we won't miss our old lives. I don't miss the way I used to live. I don't miss all the emotional crap. I don't miss all of the manipulations and the game playing and always constantly trying to keep up with the Joneses. I don't miss that. So I won't miss my old life. I love my new life now. Okay, so we won't miss our old lives. Have you ever bought an economy ticket for a flight, but because of overbooking have been upgraded to first class? That's what's like on J-Juice when you finally get to that next level. You'll be upgraded to first class. Did you regret the upgrade? Did you spend your time wondering, what am I missing by not being in the back of the plane? No, I don't at all wonder what I'm missing being back in the old body. When I was constantly going through fluctuations with my PMDD and being depressed and crying sometimes and having the bloating and eating so much and then getting triggered by someone who was antagonizing me. Oh, hell no, I don't miss those days at all. Jesus Christ, I don't miss those days. So we won't become angels. No, we're not going to become angels. You're not going to be flying away. No, that's not going to happen. Okay, if that ever does, it's an evolution way down the road that I can't anticipate. We won't be tempted. What is temptation? Is when there's things that are bad for you because you're trying to appease something, you're trying to deal with a craving or an imbalance, and then some people will do things that will harm their body, mind, and spirit. So you're not going to be tempted to do something that's going to be potentially destructive to not only you, but to anybody else. But why would someone be tempted? Because they're trying to fulfill a need. They're trying to fulfill something that's missing. Okay? So that's so true. So when you finally stay on the J juice and you get to that point where it's not just body, but it's also mind and spirit, there's going to be a whole different outlook. I mean, I'm already experiencing it. When I'm reading my book here, okay? And I'm like, man, I've evolved even past this, but this is the beginning. This is where I evolved from. This is where I totally evolved and changed to J juice. I've evolved even since this. So I'm like, man, I'm reading what I used to, what I was thinking back then. And it's evolved even more so now. It's a trip watching your evolution. And this is an actual documented evolution. And when I write another book, it's going to be another documented evolution. So that's why I think you guys need to write something during your process so you can see your documented evolution. Because usually what people do is when they're professionals, they learn their growth processes through college and through all their different jobs. And then when they finally get to their most excellent job, now they're like this most professional. And people haven't really seen their growth process. They've just seen when they actually finally grew up or became really good at what they did. But when you actually can document your own evolution, it's like proving that people actually can evolve. And here's the proof. When someone, gets a ghostwriter. So someone's really talented. Like I've watched the Real Housewives. And what's her name? Erika Jayne. Awesome singer, very, very great entertainer. But she's not a writer. Okay, but she has a lot of interesting things in her life. But she's not a writer. But she's not interested in developing her writing skills. She's interested in entertaining and performing, and that's fine. So what does she do? She gets a ghostwriter, or she gets someone that she collaborates with, which was what I was doing with Kevin. Was like, okay, I don't really have the strength right now, or the expertise to really write something entertaining, or what or something. And so I was thinking of him and I collaborating, but that didn't work out. And I'm like, you know what? I might as well just show my evolution. I might as well show that the proof of the J juice is the evolution process. So when someone like Erika Jayne is collaborating with someone who is an excellent writer, who's going to write about her life, you're not seeing the true evolution of that person. What you're seeing is another person talking about their evolution in this aspect, in one aspect of their life. But with the J juice, it's about the body, mind, and spirit, connecting all of those points together. So you see a bigger picture. And then indefinite life is the specific measurable result. So part of me is like, I wish that I could just jump to where I'm totally evolved and this is, but we're in an evolutionary process. This is the second step, actually it's the third stepping stone. Because my first book was at the courthouse when I was going up against my old publisher, which was released, and it wasn't that good, I know that, okay? But it was just my thoughts, okay? It's all kind of scattered. And then my last book was a little bit put together, sort of. I mean, there's a lot of, I'm sure if you read my last book and you read this book, you're going to see a difference. And then when I write another book, then you're going to see the evolution. So when you actually put my old book, this book, and then another book together, you will see the evolution of Jilly juice and Jillian in general. Okay? So, anyways, by heaven and what the ultimate outcome for J juice is kind of like, somebody's perception of heaven. We won't be tempted to do things that are harmful to us or anyone else. We will have work to do. Hell yeah. Kristen McGinn is kicking ass in selling her homes. She's raking in the dough because she's working on really bettering herself and her profession. Okay? I'm evolving. I'm trying to get my thoughts out, and I'm going through and writing whatever's going on, making the connections, and really developing, what my intentions to have people understand how everything is connected, how the English language separates us and words separate us, and that we have the ability to deprogram from the system. But not say that you totally reject the system, but understand it, that, college is like a subjective way of doing stuff. And then, if you're going to put your kids in college, they need to read my next book so they see what the system is going to try to do to them. And that way they have a jump on the system's intentions. Okay? Because yes, true, we have kids and adults who are still very imbalanced that will be cannon fodder for the system. Okay? So there's always work to be done. We will still experience emotions. Well, hell yeah. He said in scripture, God is said to enjoy, love, laugh, take delight, and rejoice, as well as angry, happy, jealous, and glad. Well, I mean, yeah, you can have that a little bit. With the J juice, I really haven't felt anything except for maybe love and happiness. A little anxiety when life takes a left turn sometimes, but it's very short-lived. But you will experience all the different emotions because you can't help it not to. But it's not going to run you. You're not going to be looping. And that's the beauty of the J juice, is that you will experience something for a very short amount of time when it comes to emotions, and then you will move on. It won't be something that's going to drive you. Okay? We still won't know everything. That is the truth. We still will not know everything. We've only been on this earth, for some of us, only 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, even 100 years is not enough to scratch the surface of really, truly the potential of humanity and life. And so we still will not know everything. That's for sure. We will recognize one another. Okay? That's right. You will see, I see people that I knew from a long time ago. I see them in different people out there. I see people that I used to know or have known through all of you guys. How you interact with me. We're all just a part of the greater purpose. We're all aspects of each other. And so, yeah, we will recognize each other, of course. What will we do to avoid boredom? We keep developing, we keep evolving, we keep progressing, we keep perfecting. Like, it's never being satisfied that maybe it could always be better. But then, and I remember in landmark education, they're like, oh, at some point you're going to have to be satisfied. You can't just keep going, going, going. But they're coming from the standpoint that you're going to die. You're going to die at some point. So you got to learn how to relax before you die so you can enjoy life. But what if you can relax and be still very productive at the same time? It's about balance. Okay? Once I accomplish this book, then I'm like, what's next? So the next book, and then what's next after that? Who knows? It's an evolution process. I have no idea what it's going to be like next, after this next book. The world's changing minute by minute. If our loved ones are in hell, won't that spoil heaven? If our loved ones decide, this is the thing, if our loved ones in hell, if our loved ones choose to pass away, because that's how I look at this. This is a website. If our loved ones are in hell or they choose to pass away because of their choices with cancer, disease, chronic illness, it's not going to spoil heaven because you know that you don't have any control over your friends and family. And this is what he wrote. In heaven, we'll see clearly that God, in heaven, or when you're on this earth and you're on the Jilly juice and you're progressing, you're evolving, and you're not dying and you reverse all your issues, we'll see clearly that God or life revealed himself to each person and that life gave opportunity for each heart or conscience to seek and respond to life. Everyone deserves what? Hell. No one deserves heaven. That's weird. That's interesting. Everyone deserves hell. No, everyone does not deserve hell. No one deserves heaven. Okay, that's from Romans. If we have in heaven, we'll see clearly. So I guess if you don't, see clearly or whatever, then everyone deserves. I don't understand that. Okay, anyways, Jesus went to the cross to offer salvation to all. God is absolutely sovereign and doesn't desire any to perish. You will perish in their unbelief. So I guess if you don't believe in life, yeah. So anyways, I'm not trying to read all these scriptures, but I'm trying to show there is definitely a connection that heaven is actually when you reverse all your issues. And so, I want to keep jumping ahead because once I've understood how it all works, then it's writing about it and developing. And so, yeah. So anyways, all right. You guys have a good day. I appreciate, you getting my book. I appreciate you introducing this very different thought process to people in your world that has never seen it. I'm so invested in it and I am so close to it that it's I'm so beyond it. But then, some of the people out there in your world have never really been introduced to potential of indefinite life. And that, so I have to take myself back to that time where where I can actually say it in such a way and substantiate it and dispel all the myths out there that I had to deal with. So anyways, you guys have a good day. Happy Saturday. Bye.